March 2, 1944. The air in the forebunker is thick, almost suffocating, a mixture of coal smoke, stale breath, and the metallic temps of anxiety. Outside, Berlin shivers under the weight of winter, the dim morning light barely filtering through narrow, reinforced windows. You can almost hear the distant rumble of anti-aircraft guns shaking the city, a constant reminder that the war is closing in. In a room cluttered with maps, charts, and the faint smell of inked reports, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz stands rigid, a man weathered by months at sea, but now trapped in the claustrophobic machinery of strategy. His uniform is immaculate, metals glinting under the weak bunker lights, but his eyes betray the storm inside. He spreads a report across the wooden table, a document thick with numbers, locations, and the cold, brutal truth. The Allies' sonar technology, ASDIC, is hunting the Kriegsmarine's U-boats with lethal precision. Every line, every column, feels like a countdown. Main 4, Dönitz begins, his voice calm, almost measured, though the tremor beneath is unmistakable. Our submarines are no longer the hunters, they're being hunted. Hitler looks up from his chair, his expression a mix of incredulity and irritation. Around him, the room stiffens, the other officers exchanging uneasy glances. You can feel the tension pressing down, heavier than the reinforced walls around them. Dönitz places a map of the Atlantic on the table, red pins marking the precise locations where U-boats have been destroyed, each one a silent scream in the cold waters of the North Atlantic. USS England, USS Georgie Badger, American destroyers cutting through the waves with relentless efficiency, their sonar ears piercing the ocean depths. Convoys, once prey drifting helplessly in the Atlantic, are now shields behind which Allied forces move like a living, breathing organism. Each detection, each depth charge, each sinking chips away at the illusion of German naval supremacy. Dönitz watches the map, the grim realization settling like ice in his stomach. The Atlantic. The very veins of Germany's supply and strategic dominance are no longer theirs to control. The reports are meticulous, almost clinical, but behind the numbers, behind the coordinates and lost tallies, is a human element that makes the truth unbearable. Young men, barely older than boys, lost beneath the waves. Their fate known only to the sea and the sonar pings that mark their last moments. Dönitz does not flinch. He has seen this before, in reports and in person, but seeing it all laid bare in the heart of the bunker, with Hitler's unyielding gaze upon him, drives the point home with a brutal clarity.
At the Grand
Admiral leans forward. The wolf packs cannot survive in these conditions. Every mission now is a gamble with almost certain loss. Hitler slams a hand onto the table, his voice sharp. Nonsense. We still have the U-boat fleet. The Atlantic will be ours. Do not speak of defeat. But Dönitz remains unshaken. He has no illusions. The war has shifted beneath their feet, and no amount of rhetoric can alter the fact that the tide of technology and strategy has turned against them. He knows that behind Hitler's fury is fear, the same fear that gnaws at his own heart. The forebunker, designed to be the nerve center of unshakable command, now feels like a cage where truth is a dangerous guest. You can almost hear the muffled sounds from above, the boots of couriers, the clatter of typewriters, the low murmur of officers discussing air raids and reinforcements, all while Dönitz lays out the systematic devastation of the U-boat arm. Charts show patrol zones compromised, convoy detection rates climbing exponentially, losses mounting with every passing week. The Atlantic, once a dark playground where German submarines reigned supreme, is now a hunting ground where the hunter has become the hunted. And yet, amidst the cold precision of reports and charts, Dönitz senses the weight of inevitability pressing on the room. There is a shift in the air, subtle but undeniable, as if the walls themselves lean in to listen. He sees it in Hitler's twitching jaw, in the officers' clenched fists, in the silent acceptance that grows with each passing moment. They all feel it. The war on the seas is no longer winnable. The balance has shifted irreversibly. Dönitz straightens, his hand hovering over the map, eyes tracing the path of each lost U-boat. We are facing the end of our Atlantic dominance. Our strategy must adapt, or we will lose everything. A pause. The room holds its collective breath. Outside, the city shivers. Below the surface of the Atlantic, sonar pings echo relentlessly. a constant drumbeat of doom for the once mighty U-boat fleet. And in that moment, the Grand Admiral alone seems to fully comprehend the grim reality. The Third Reich's stranglehold over the oceans, its lifeline, its weapon of terror, is slipping through their fingers. A subtle click of a pen, a pause that stretches too long, and then a quiet, almost inaudible question hangs in the bunker air. If the seas are lost, what remains to defend the Reich itself? March 3, 1944. The frigid North Sea gnaws at the hulls of U-boats like invisible teeth. You can almost feel the icy spray slapping against steel decks, the wind howling as if it knows the fate of those beneath it. Somewhere in the depths, U-552, commanded by Captain Lieutenant Erich Topp, glides silently through the dark, hunting the convoys that once trembled at the mere mention of a U-boat. But now, something has changed. The sonar pings of Allied destroyers cut through the water, precise, relentless, like a predator who has learned the language of its prey. UF-552's hydrophones catch them first, distant, almost imperceptible, a high-pitched rhythm that makes every crewman stiffen, every hand tighten on the controls. Top's face is pale beneath the hat's shadow. He knows these sounds. They're the death songs of submarines. The Wolfpack, once masters of the Atlantic, now drifts in a growing shadow of fear. Dönitz's warnings in the bunker echo in the minds of captains like Topp. Every U-boat commander, trained to strike swiftly and vanish, now feels the hunter closing in. Depth charges explode in the distance, water shuddering as metal and men are hurled into the cold embrace of the sea. Radios crackle with frantic updates, boats lost, survivors picked up by enemy vessels, missions aborted. You can almost taste the salt and fear mixing in the air. Back in the forebunker, Dönitz reviews the intelligence from his command network. The USS England alone has destroyed 6 submarines in 13 days. Charts, meticulously updated, show kill zones expanding, and the grim pattern is undeniable. The Atlantic is no longer a playground. Every U-boat sortie is a roll of dice, and the odds are cruelly stacked against them. Every patrol is suicide, he mutters to himself. Tracing a finger along the red marks that signify loss, his mind races. How can you redirect the remaining fleet? Or can they operate without being torn apart by sonar and depth charges? He knows the technological gap is insurmountable. Allied sonar has advanced beyond anything the Kriegsmarine anticipated. Stealth, once a U-boat's greatest weapon, has been rendered almost meaningless. In the field, Topp makes his choice. Evasion. The order's silent, but understood. The U-boat dives deeper, hugging the ocean floor, engines throttled to whispers. The crew listens to the sonar ping patterns like a lullaby, only this one brings dread instead of comfort. Time stretches endlessly in the water's cold embrace. Minutes feel like hours. Hours like lifetimes. Outside, the destroyers hunt, their searchlights sweeping, their sonar humming with deadly promise. Above, Allied aircraft patrol the skies, radar scanning, flares dropping, illuminating the waves with fleeting bursts of light. U-552 moves in the shadows, each decision critical. Ascend and risk detection. Stay submerged and risk running out of oxygen. Psychological toll is immense. You can almost feel it pressing in on every man, the crushing weight of being hunted in a domain where they once held absolute control. Back in Berlin, Dönitz convenes with his officers. The room feels colder than usual, the tension more palpable. He speaks of losses, of patrol failures, of technological superiority achieved by the Allies. We cannot meet them in open engagement, he warns. Our advantage has been erased. We must rethink, or our fleet will be annihilated. Hitler listens, eyes narrowing. We still have numbers. We can reinforce the Wolfpacks. We can strike. Dönitz shakes his head slowly. Numbers mean nothing if they are systematically destroyed. The sea is no longer ours to command. The hunters have become the hunted. The words hang in the bunker like a tombstone over the Atlantic. Officers shift uncomfortably. Outside, the city shivers under the threat of Allied bombers. Below, U-boats dive and rise, evade and escape, each one a fragile bubble of human life against a technology that sees all. And then, an incoming report arrives. Another U-boat sunk, another crew lost. Another proof that the Atlantic War is no longer winnable. Dönitz's face hardens. The inevitability of defeat presses against him, but he knows he must maintain composure. Strategic decisions must still be made. Somewhere in the vast cold of the Atlantic, a young German sailor whispers a silent prayer, hoping that tonight will not be the night the sonar finds them. But deep in his heart, he feels what Dönitz already knows. The era of U-boat dominance is over. April 10th, 1944. The Atlantic churns under a sullen gray sky. Waves hammering the steel hulls of the Kriegsmarine's remaining U-boats. The Wolfpacks, once a terror that haunted every Allied convoy, now drift like shadows of their former selves. You can almost feel the anxiety radiating from the crews. A tangible weight pressing on every shoulder, every knuckle wrapped around the cold metal of torpedo controls. Capet, Lieutenant Gunther Preen, aboard U-47 paces the cramped quarters. Listening to the low hum of the electric engines and the faint clicks of sonar far above, his men are silent, each lost in private dread. The reports from Dönitz's command are grim. Nearly 1/3 of the operational fleet has been lost in the past 6 months. What had once been predatory dominance has become desperate evasion. Every convoy presents a risk, every engagement a potential death sentence. The Allies have refined their strategy with chilling efficiency. Hunter-killer groups roam the ocean, their destroyers like bloodhounds, their sonar pings relentless. Air patrols equipped with radar track the smallest ripple on the water. The technology that Dönitz warned Hitler about has matured into a lethal certainty. Depth charges ripple through the water, exploding with terrifying precision, tearing metal and men alike into silence. Each loss is a reminder that the Atlantic is no longer a hunting ground. It is a graveyard. Back in the forebunker, Dönitz convenes an emergency meeting with his top officers. Maps and charts are spread across the table, red pins marking the exact coordinates of lost vessels. His voice is calm but heavy, weighted with the reality that words cannot soften. The Wolfpacks are failing. We can no longer control the seas. Every sortie risks annihilation. Admiral Otto Kretschmer, once the celebrated ace of the U-boat arm, sits quietly, jaw clenched, absorbing the truth. Even the men who had once believed in Germany's maritime supremacy cannot ignore the evidence. The era of invisibility, the nights spent striking convoys unopposed, has vanished. The Atlantic belongs to the Allies now. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, young sailors aboard U-604 huddle in the darkened conning tower, tension so thick it feels like water. Orders come from Dönitz's command. Avoid engagement, evade detection, retreat when necessary. The notion of attacking convoys is now a desperate gamble, the odds stacked against them. Preen looks out through the periscope, the vast gray ocean stretching endlessly, and wonders how many more of his comrades will vanish beneath its waves before the war is over. Reports flood in hourly. The USS Bory has sunk another U-boat, the USS Buckley another. Each incident cataloged with precision in the Admiralty's logs. Dönitz reads the dispatches with a grim understanding. The technology that destroyed the Wolfpacks is not just a tactical advantage. It is a strategic death sentence for Germany's naval ambitions. The nightmare he warned Hitler about is no longer hypothetical. It is reality. Hitler, isolated in his bunker, reacts with fury and denial. Our submarines can still win, he insists, pounding the table. We cannot surrender the seas. But Dönitz does not flinch. He knows the reality the Führer refuses to see. The Atlantic War is lost. There is no cunning maneuver, no heroic strike that can reverse the technological and strategic advantage the Allies have achieved. In the depths, the U-boat crews continue their silent struggle. Each sonar ping above them a harbinger of death. The tension is suffocating. Even the experienced commanders, men who once took pride in the art of stealth and strategy, now operate with one hand on the throttle and the other on fate. You can almost feel the fear spreading like a contagion, the same fear that grips every officer in Berlin. And yet, amidst the despair, Dönitz begins to strategize. There is no hope of regaining dominance, but survival, tactical withdrawal, preservation of remaining forces becomes the new imperative. The war at sea has shifted irreversibly. The Allies' mastery of sonar and convoy defense cannot be undone. The Wolfpacks that once struck terror across the Atlantic are reduced to fleeing shadows. Each sortie a desperate bid to avoid detection rather than achieve victory. As Dönitz reviews the latest loss reports, a chilling realization crystallizes in his mind: the U-boat war, which once promised to choke Britain into submission, is over. The Third Reich's dream of maritime supremacy has crumbled, leaving nothing but the cold, harsh reality of Allied dominance. And then, a final report arrives. Another boat gone without a trace. Not even debris. Not even survivors. Just silence. Dönitz stares at the paper, the weight of the inevitable pressing down like the crushing depths that have claimed so many of his men. In the bunker, Hitler remains oblivious to the scale of the disaster, but Dönitz knows what he must do. Survival, not victory, will dictate the next steps. The war on the Atlantic is lost, and the consequences will ripple across the entire Reich. May 5th, 1944. Deep within the reinforced concrete walls of the forebunker, the faint hum of generators underscores a tense silence. You can almost feel the air vibrate with anticipation and fear. A charged stillness as officers shuffle reports and maps across the worn table. Outside, Berlin is battered, a city gasping under the relentless bombardment of Allied air raids. Its streets shattered and smoldering. Inside, Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz leans over the latest intelligence, his face drawn, eyes shadowed with exhaustion and dread. The reports are worse than before. Every U-boat dispatched into the Atlantic is accounted for, and the tally of losses grows with every week. The Americans have refined their anti-submarine tactics with a ruthless precision, combining sonar detection, air support, and coordinated surface attacks. U-boat commanders report that the very ocean itself seems to betray them. The once invisible depths now illuminated by the Allies' technological superiority. Dönitz's mind races. The Atlantic War is no longer about striking convoys. It is about surviving long enough to retreat, to preserve what remains of the fleet. But even survival is uncertain. Boats vanish without warning. Entire crews swallowed by the sea or captured by relentless hunter-killer groups. The strategic advantage is gone, replaced by a cold, inevitable calculus. The U-boat war is lost, calls another meeting with Hitler and the top naval staff. The room is tense, the walls lined with men in stiff uniforms, each aware that history's tide is turning against them. Dönitz spreads the latest operational maps across the table, each red mark representing another lost boat, another failed mission, another young sailor who will never return. The silence that follows is heavy, almost unbearable. You see, Mainfer, Dönitz begins, his voice steady but grim. Our submarines cannot survive against this new Allied strategy. ASDIC, combined with air and surface coordination, has rendered our wolf packs ineffective. We are no longer the hunters, we're hunted. Hitler's face tightens, a flicker of disbelief and anger crossing his features. This is impossible. The Atlantic cannot belong to them. You underestimate our men, Admiral. Dönitz does not flinch. He knows the truth must be stated plainly. I wish it were otherwise. But every report confirms the same reality. The Atlantic, once our domain, is now under enemy control. Our fleet is being decimated. The room feels smaller with each word. Officers exchange glances, some with disbelief, others with silent resignation. The weight of inevitability presses down like a vice. Even the walls seem to hum with the recognition of a strategic collapse that cannot be reversed. Dönitz watches Hitler, noting the subtle shift in posture, the rigid jaw. The eyes darting away, signs that the Führer is confronting a reality he cannot fully accept. Meanwhile, across the ocean, U-boat crews continue their desperate struggle. Kapata Lieutenant Heinz Wilhelm Eckeview 123 navigates the murky waters. Sonar pings constantly echoing every ripple a potential threat. The once feared wolf packs now operate in isolation, evading detection rather than pursuing targets. Fear, fatigue, and the relentless pressure of technological superiority gnaw at every man aboard. You can almost feel the claustrophobia, the cold, the tension, the constant awareness of being hunted in a domain that was once theirs to command. Back in the bunker, Dönitz paces. The realization is complete. The Atlantic War is lost. The consequences ripple outward, affecting not just naval strategy but the entire trajectory of the war. Without control of the seas, the Reich's capacity to supply and reinforce its positions, particularly in Western Europe, is severely compromised. D-Day looms on the horizon, and the Allies are poised to exploit Germany's weakening grip on the ocean. Dönitz turns to his staff. We must adapt. Preservation of our remaining forces is paramount. There's no victory to be had in the Atlantic, only survival. The words are cold, clinical, but carry the weight of doom. Outside, Berlin shakes under another air raid, and below the ocean's surface, U-boats dodge sonar and depth charges. A desperate game of cat and mouse with no end in sight. And then, a new report arrives. Yet another U-boat destroyed, this time with all hands lost. The silence that follows is deafening. In that moment, Dönitz knows the Atlantic will never be Germany's again. Their empire of the sea has crumbled, and the consequences for the Reich will be swift and unrelenting. June 1st, 1944, the four-bunker is silent, except for the faint click of telephones and the shuffle of papers. Outside, Berlin trembles under the distant rumble of artillery and the intermittent roar of Allied bombers. Grand Admiral Karl Dönitz sits hunched over a map, the dim light casting shadows across his lined face. Each pin, each red mark, tells a story of destruction, of men swallowed by the Atlantic, of missions that ended before they even began. The wolf packs, once the terror of the seas, are now fragments, hunted ghosts slipping through a net they can no longer escape. Dönitz rises, walking slowly toward Hitler, who stares at the map with stubborn disbelief. Mein Führer, Dönitz says, his voice measured, unwavering. The U-boat fleet can no longer fulfill its strategic purpose. The Allies' sonar advances have neutralized our advantage. Every engagement now is a potential catastrophe. Our stranglehold on the Atlantic is broken. Hitler's eyes flash a storm of anger and denial. We cannot lose the Atlantic. We still have boats. They still have men. Dönitz meets his gaze squarely, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. The war on the seas is lost. Every effort to regain control will cost more lives than can be spared. Our resources must be preserved for the defense of the Reich itself. Around the table, officers shift uneasily. Some avert their eyes. Others absorb the truth with grim resignation. The realization that the Third Reich's Atlantic ambitions are shattered sinks into the bunker like a heavy fog. The Allies' mastery of sonar, combined with air and surface patrols, has made the once feared U-boat threat a memory of what once was. In the Atlantic, Capito Lieutenant Top aboard U-552 feels the same grim truth. His crew listens to the distant sonar pings of American destroyers, their eyes reflecting fear and exhaustion. Orders from command are clear. Avoid engagement, retreat if possible, survive. Each decision carries the weight of life and death. Single mistake could mean annihilation. You can almost feel the tension, the claustrophobia, chill of the deep ocean pressing against steel walls and human flesh alike. Back in the bunker, Dönitz turns to Hitler and speaks with deliberate gravity. The collapse of our U-boat operations has significant implications. The Allies will now move with greater confidence. D-Day is inevitable. The Atlantic is open to them, and with it, the pathway to our continental defenses. Hitler clenches his fists, his voice rising, but Dönitz does not flinch. He understands that his duty is to confront reality, no matter how bitter. He knows that acknowledging defeat in one theater may be the only way to preserve Germany's remaining strength in others. Outside, the Atlantic churns with indifferent fury. Depth charges explode with terrifying precision, tearing apart metal and men alike. Each U-boat that escapes is a fragile testament to human endurance, a fleeting victory against an unstoppable tide. But the outcome is no longer in doubt. The wolf packs are broken, the sea no longer theirs to command, and the strategic advantage has shifted irreversibly. Dönitz watches the reports flow in, each a reminder of the war slipping through Germany's grasp. The realization crystallizes fully: the U-boat war is lost. The Third Reich's maritime stranglehold is gone. Survival, adaptation, and preparation for the coming Allied invasions are now the only objectives. As he steps back from the map, Dönitz feels the full weight of history pressing down. The Atlantic, once a theater where German submarines struck terror into the hearts of the Allies, is now a graveyard. The echoes of sonar pings marking the end of an era. Every decision from this point on will be influenced by the lessons learned in the depths, by the consequences of underestimating technological advancement and strategic coordination, and somewhere beneath the waves, the remnants of the U-boat fleet continue to evade detection. Each man acutely aware that they are the last witnesses to a dying chapter of the Kriegsmarine. Their survival is fragile, their future uncertain, and the inevitability of defeat hangs over them like the cold, relentless ocean. In the bunker, Dönitz takes a deep breath, the enormity of what he must do pressing on him. Prepare for a Reich under siege, for the loss of the Atlantic has opened the door for the Allies' ultimate strike. The Atlantic War, the pride and terror of Germany's naval ambitions, is over. The lesson is brutal, clear, and irrevocable. The Grand Admiral's gaze lingers on the map one final time. Each mark, each lost boat, each shattered crew tells the story of a war that could not be won beneath the waves. The sea has claimed its dominion back, and the Third Reich must now face the consequences above it.